All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Books for Crooks. I'm Bella D, and today I'm going to be reading to you Chapter 2 of Homeboys in College. What I like about this book is it's not from the homeboys' perspective. It's written by Hilary Paul McGeary, and he was a professor at San Diego City College. And he doesn't give the typical white professor perspective of these homeboys, and that's what I love. So I'm going to read that to you. Let's go. All right, Chapter 2, The Bigness of Lil Man. My phone rang at 7 a.m. Hillary, the voice said, get your ass up out of bed. I groggily responded, who's this? It's Lil Man, of course. Who'd you think it was? Oh, I said, slowly coming to my senses. What you up to? Listen, man, I want to get into that summer class. How much are they paying? Well, I don't know exactly, I said. It changes from time to time, but last time I heard it was about $400 for a 5-week summer session. Sounds good by me, Lil Man rejoined by a smack of his lips. There was a pause and I wondered what my new friend was doing up so early. I did not have long to wonder. He continued, how about meeting me somewhere and helping me with some of these papers? Sure, I gladly agreed, but I have class from 8 till 9. That's cool. I'll meet you afterward. What room are you in? He met me later as promised, but had with him only half of the necessary papers. Where's your father's tax return from last year? I asked. I had warned him that the EOPS program awards grants on the basis of families' need and that he would have to prove that his father is not some big rich dude. Oh, he said, I left that in my friend's car. I'll go get it and meet you right away at your apartment. Since I lived across the street from the college, I went to my room, did some putzing around, then came out expecting to find Lil Man. No such luck. I went to breakfast, telling Topo to tell Lil Man to join me at the restaurant. I finished breakfast and headed home. Still no Lil Man. Hours passed. This was the last day to sign up for the program, so I called Lil Man's home. His mother answered in Spanish, so I told her, Yo soy Hilario, el profesor del colegio, and gave my number. I was soaking wet in the shower when Lil Man finally called, not from home, but from the phone on the street downstairs. He sounded as if nothing had happened. As if I were an idiot to have been wondering where he was all day. I know how to play the silly games, I told myself, so I played it cool and just said, I'm in the shower, be down in about 15. Okay, he said, I'll kick back at McDonald's till you come. Of course, when I came out, he was nowhere to be found. Across the street, in the college lawn, I talked to some other vatos. No one had seen Lil Man. I was just about to go back to my room when Lil Man came sauntering out of McDonald's, but looking like he had not seen me. I had looked in McDonald's, but he had not been in there. Familiar as I am with the swift appearance and disappearance of cholos on the street, I was not surprised. He could have been halfway to his barrio and back, 6 times. Anyway, he came straight towards me, but looking rather groggy. To my amazement, he turned before he got to me, went towards the high school as if he had never seen me. I couldn't believe it. I whistled and shouted his name, and he didn't respond. Finally, I ran after him. Soon enough, he had not seen me, had forgotten entirely about our planned meeting, and I had a very sneaky suspicion that he had found a nickel bag of pot in his friend's car this morning and had been making friends all day sharing it with others. He was friendly and agreeable as ever, however, so he at once agreed to go with me to the EOPS office. He even had the needed tax papers tucked neatly inside his shirt. The EOPS director personally helped us approve what Lil Man had already done in filing out the forms and gave a few helpful hints. He said that the classes would stress survival skills for college, helping the student become familiar with the innumerable services and helpful personnel on campus. Tutors, counselors, library, independent learning center, financial aid, student nurse, enrollment procedures, etc., etc. Best of all, he said, we have 200 slots for this program, and so far, we only have 100 people in it. So get out to the streets and tell your homeboys about it. We pay $410 for a 5-week program, 5 hours per day, 5 days a week. Today's deadline was not the final one, so others would still have a chance to join. Lil Man promised to spread the word. He is such an affable fellow that I had high hopes that he would find at least 6 stone cholos to take advantage of this offering. As we walked back across campus, Lil Man seemed even more talkative than smiley. What you doing this evening, man? He asked me. I'm throwing a little party at my pad. Gonna be plenty of reefer and mushrooms. You ought to come by. Though greatly flattered by the invitation, I had to tactfully indicate a higher ideal. Well, I said with a slow drawn to give myself time to recover my wits, I really won't be interested in pot or peyote. I've tried pot briefly and don't like the way it messes with my mind. I like to be in complete control of myself. You're in control, man, he assured me, just seeing pretty lights all around you. Yeah, but then you forget to do things like you forgot this morning that you promised me that you'd be right back with your papers. Then you walked right past me on the street without recognizing me. You call that being in control? My friend smiled at me sheepishly. Ah, well, he said with a wave of his hand as if he were swatting flies. I didn't have nothing important to do anyways. Nothing important? This chance to get started in college and get paid for it at the same time could be a major point in your whole life. Nah, school is school, just a bunch of duddy teachers. Don't know their ass from grass about life. Lil Man put his head down and shook it as we spoke, simultaneously throwing both his hands up to shoulder height, bent at the elbows. I interpreted it as a gesture of utter disdain, and it hurt me. Is that what you think of me? I said mournfully. Nah, you're all right, man. Just most of them. You'd be surprised, I said. There are a lot of better people than I am if you just got to know them. By this time, we had reached the other side of the campus. Having been filling out papers and visiting different offices most of the afternoon, I was getting hungry. You want to get something to eat? I asked. We went to a quiet restaurant and sat down. All I want out of life, confided Lil Man, waxing philosophical, is a car, a pad, a woman, some reefers, and a gun. Oh my gosh, I replied. You sure do need an education. There's so much more to life than that. If you had all those things, you'd be bored as hell inside a week. Silence fell between us for a few seconds. I racked my brain for a way I could get through to this fine, intelligent young man. He has so much potential, such vibrancy of life. It made me ache to want to open the doors of the world to him. I could not take him to the top of a high mountain and show him all the kingdoms of the world stretched out to his feet. I felt helpless to impart to him all the spiritual and intellectual dimensions of life. All I could point to was the one source of all these things for my own life, that boring sounding thing called education and all the values it could provide. How could I lead him to that trough of knowledge and truth, that front of light and goodness, if I could just get him to trust me? I could take him by the hand and lead him all the way to the top of the tree. But before I could think of what to say, Lil Man broke in. Do you still have your cherry? He asked casually. I was about to drop my teeth. Did he mean by this expression what I had learned from my cholo friends in East LA? They referred to popping a girl's cherry, meaning the act of releasing her from her bonds of womanhood. Surely Lil Man had a different meaning. Skeptically, I asked, what's that? What do you mean? You know, man, Lil Man squalled impatiently. Are you still a virgin? No, I must admit, I stammered, I am not. Good, he said exuberantly, slapping the table with glee. I'll invite you to some of our parties. We got some fine weed that's guaranteed to make the girls horny as hell. I don't know any horny girls, I rejoined, stretching the truth to indicate my lack of satisfaction with the ones I did know. Don't worry, Lil Man purred. We have plenty of them, and I have stuff for you to buy for $10 a joint. I whistled. Whew, I said, that's big money. I never am dope enough to waste my money on such things. Nah. What you do is you break it down and roll yourself 10 small ones. They're plenty powerful, and you get 10 good lays for just $10. That sounds a bit idyllic. I don't know what that word is. That sounds a bit idyllic, I replied. I don't trust things that are too good to be true in any way. I don't care. I don't waste my money on that stuff, and I've never yet spent a cent on making myself dopey, and I never will. I like the way my body is. Don't you ever go running or play a hard game of football and come in and take a hot shower? You feel clean all through, like $1,000,000. I want to take good care of my body, keep a sound mind and a sound body, as the philosophers say. Lil Man looked at me with bewilderment, as if either he did not know the feeling I referred to or thought I was crazy for preferring it to being high on dope. Aw, man, just forget it. By that time he had finished eating. We had enough meeting of the minds for one day. We went our separate ways. Things were quiet for a few days. I was busy making out final exams, giving them and making out grades. Then suddenly one morning, I had a flood of homies. It was evident that Lil Man was spreading the word. I was going home from college when I saw a couple homeboys coming my way. Usually I would just dart across the street without waiting for the light, but one of the teens looked very much like Lil Man. So I waited for the light to see if they wanted to talk to me. The short fellow was wearing a Pendleton shirt, exactly like the one Lil Man had been wearing when I saw him, but as he came closer, I could see it was not Lil Man. The light turned green, and I almost crossed the street, but to my surprise, the young man with the Pendleton, separated from the other one, headed straight toward me and started speaking while he was a distance away. "Hey, where you've been? I've been looking for you." In the past few months, I had met so many dudes from San Diego, thanks to the introductions of Smiley and my own friendliness, that I was embarrassed that I could not remember this guy's name. "My friend from San Jose wants to get into that summer program," he continued. We tried to call you, but you weren't home. I'm in and out all the time." He took out his wallet, and I could tell at once what an orderly fellow he was. He carefully opened the adhesive flap, and I could see various photos, plus the corner of a $20 bill, neatly folded with the corner showing. He dug deeper and pulled forth a folded piece of paper. As he unwrapped it, the names of several homeboys were showing, written neat Cholo script. There in one corner, in my own handwriting, was my name, phone number, offered to me now as evidence and a reminder that I had given this young man my promise that I would be available to help in any way I could. I apologized for not being home all the time, but I sought to remedy the error by saying, "Maybe we could call your friend right now, possibly get him enrolled today." I fished a dime out of my pocket as we talked, and soon we were on the phone talking to his friend Boxer. My companion did the talking. "Boxer, this is Sharky. Listen, man, I've got the dude from the college here with me, the teacher. He says you should come right now. Call him when you get here." Boxer promised to be on his way. I thanked Sharky for the introduction, and we went on his way to high school classes. Turning to go into my apartment, I was accosted by two other vatos. "Hey man," one of them said, "my carnal wants to get into your program." "The one that pays $400? I asked, getting ready to assure him that it was not my program, but one sponsored by the state. "That's it." Then before I could make any explanation, he continued, "I'll give you his number. You call him, but don't tell him you saw me right now because I'm supposed to be in class." He produced a graffiti marker from his pocket, and since we did not have a paper, proceeded to write in thick script on my hand the name and number of his close friend, his carnal. "I guess Lil Man told you about the summer readiness program?" I asked. "Yeah, it sounds like a good deal." I assured him that it was, and went to my room to use the phone to arrange to meet the new fellow. Then I stepped out again to eat breakfast at McDonald's. There I saw a guy named Eddie and a chola named Lippy, whom I had met recently. I asked if I could sit with them, and they readily agreed. As we sat there, the girl was writing radio dedications of songs that she planned to call some radio stations like XPRS in LA, which plays lots of oldies and takes radio dedications. When I started to eat, she was just beginning with the headline saying, "To all my homeboys and homegirls from Barrio Logan, El Primero." I went about my eating, chatting with her and Eddie while she continued to write. About 10 minutes later, Eddie took the notebook from Lippy and started reading the names of the songs and the nicknames of the persons whom she would be dedicated. To my utter amazement, Lippy had in a short time written about 3 pages full about 50 different dedications. I was shocked because even I, an experienced writer, would have difficulty putting ink to paper so rapidly. Hoping to build on a good talent, I said, "You sure like to write." Lippy muttered some sort of acknowledgement as the music from their large black portable radio with silver knobs droned on. The radio was the latest thing in music producers, since palm-sized transistor radios had lost flavor due to their small amount of sound. This one could be heard a block away. The music was too loud for calm conversation, so I ate without speaking. Then suddenly, when a song finished, Eddie turned down the volume. He knew me from my Hopi book as a crusader for homeboy advancement, but I was not at all prepared for what he said out of the clear blue sky. "I wish we'd all have a big party at the Chicano Federation," Eddie began, "and stop fighting each other." Listening to the radio over a casual breakfast does not often give rise to philosophical thinking, but the response which came from Lippy indicated conclusively that she was thinking on the same wavelength and just as powerfully. I wish I could live to see that day, she said slowly. I seized the opportunity to give them some suggestions based on their desires. If you really want that, why don't you work for it? My theory is that if we don't try, we don't accomplish anything. In life, we're lucky if we succeed 50% of the time, but that also means that more things we try, the more success we have. You might even use your talent for writing, Lippy. I've been thinking of coming out with another book, one about San Diego, but with stories written by the young people themselves. Maybe you can think of some way to write to encourage all the homeboys to live as homeboys of each other. Lippy seemed to like the idea, so I gave her my phone number so she can contact me with questions or a finished product. Unfortunately, I have never heard from her since that time. No sooner that I had returned to my room than I got a call from Boxer. I'm here, he said, and there's another dude with me. He says he's waiting for you too. When I went out to meet them, I found it was another guy I had called. So I took the two of them over to the EOPS director. He welcomed them, but was on his way to give an orientation to a group of students about the start of the program. Come on to the meeting, the director said to my companions. And when we finish, I'll fix you up with the paperwork to sign up for the program. So I left them with Mr. Rangel, encouraging them to call me at home if they needed further help. I made the mistake of not taking their phone numbers, for I had never heard from them again. I did not have Sharky's number for reaching Boxer, and the other guy's number, written on my hand, had long since washed away. All I know is that they must not have lasted very long because I never saw them on campus thereafter. I would have been glad to give them every bit of moral support at my disposal if only I had seen them again. Since I do not include Sharky's full story later, I would like to note that Sharky himself later attended City College for 1 year, then transferred to Palomar College in the northern part of San Diego County. There, he studied computer-assisted drafting and was about to get his certificate of completion as this book went to press in 1984. He was going to write this book, but was too busy for now. Perhaps this fine story will appear in a later publication. The first day of summer school, I found Lil Man just as he was getting out of class. He was with his brother Beto, who had signed up for the same program. Lil Man was wearing the finest cholo duds, all ironed and starched. His square-shouldered shirt had its long tails hanging out, and his black shoes were so shiny that they demanded attention. Beto obviously scorned his little brother's fascination with cholismo. They were a perfect study in contrasting philosophy in one family. Beto was dressed so that he would fit in right with the rest of the campus society, but Lil Man seemed to delight in being an obvious standout. Their personalities were just as different. Flamboyant Lil Man greeted me waving a check. "Look what they gave us already," he shouted with glee. $150 check. Now that's what I call easy money. Beto stood by silently while Lil Man bubbled over the amount of his first day at college. Of course we got too much homework already, Lil Man complained. That English teacher bitch expects us to look up 50 words in the dictionary by tomorrow. I said, "Why, that's good for you," I retorted. "Life is long, and who knows, someday you might want to write a book about your homeboys, so get all the education you can get." I never expected to write a book, but I got an education, and then when I wanted to do it, I was able to. "Come on, let's go cruising," said Lil Man with a wave of his hand. "What in?" I asked. "I have a car," said Beto quietly. "I'm going down to Broadway for lunch," I said. "I'll let you drop me off if you can." When I saw the car, I almost flipped. It was a giant gold Cadillac. Looked like a rich man's car even though it was an old model, about 1965. There was nothing super fancy about it like the car club cars, but it was clean and in sparkling condition. They put me in the back seat of the convertible, and when I sat down, I felt like I had been swallowed up. The car was so big. We were soon bopping down the street with stereo music blasting in our ears, and the car bouncing up and down as the air whistled past our faces. The car even scraped the pavement sometimes from bouncing so low and back. It certainly was an exhilarating experience. Of course, the music was too loud for any conversation until I got out, thanking them for the ride and hoping to see them tomorrow. I never saw Lil Man in college after that. In the coming weeks, I ran into his brother a couple times and asked how's it going. Beto assured me that he was doing fine. Then I would ask, "Is your brother around?" "Yeah, he's around somewhere." "How's he doing in his classes?" "I don't know. He ain't none of my problem." You should be concerned with your brother, I pleaded, try to encourage him. Nah, I ain't my brother's keeper, growled Beto in his easygoing manner. Besides, and here he started getting a contemptuous gleam in his eye, if he's gonna keep on with that cholo shit, I ain't gonna have nothing to do with him. Let him find his own transportation. You should have seen him today. How so? You know how the play Zoot Suit has been showing up in LA? Yeah. Well, he and some other dudes drove all the way up there to see it. Now he's come back with this fancy Pachuco outfit, baggy pleated pants, with big wide suspenders, a straw hat, and shades, the whole bit. He looks like El Chuco himself, and he wore it to school today. I bet he looked good, I said in defense of Lil Man. He always dresses spick and span. Not neat enough, all right. Beto conceded, but there's just no place for it. Swaggering into class this morning with like some banty rooster, swinging his watch on a gold chain as if he dropped out of the 40s. He'll grow out of it, I said soothingly. He has you as his older brother to look up to. I can't even talk to him, Beto said. I try to talk some sense into him, but he just ignores me, and my father is even worse. They fought the other night. My father threw him out of the house. You mean he isn't living at home anymore? No, he's staying with his girlfriend. Well, anyway, I concluded, try to help him the best you can. Beto just grunted disgustedly as we parted. He'll never amount to anything. The next thing I knew, Lil Man had been shot. I was not teaching in the summer, so I went out of town for 2 weeks. When I came back, the first thing I heard on the streets was Lil Man had been shot during the weekend. Is it bad? I asked. Gonna be in the hospital for a few weeks. Damn. 4 weeks gone in a 5-week session and this happens? I called his home and his mother told me the hospital phone number. When I called the hospital, there he was, and he told me the whole story. I was walking in the park last Sunday night with my friend Manny. What park? I interpreted. You know, man, Chicano Park. I wouldn't go walking at 10 o'clock at night in no white boys park. Sound like it might have been safer somewhere else. I interjected with a little friendly banter. Yeah? Anyhow, do you want to hear the story or not? Sure. Okay, then shut up and listen. So here's how it went. We were just walking along, minding our business, when a car full of dudes pulled up. They shouted at us, "Where you guys from?" Of course, my homeboy Weddle and I shouted, "Logan Heights, El Primero." So they yelled, we're from Cedro. That's the gang at San Isidro, you know, Hillary. Yes, I know. So then one of these dudes pulls out a big fucking shotgun and tells us, "You better start running or we'll blast your ass right here." So we lit out as fast as we could, and I got hit anyway. Weddle didn't get a thing. Where'd they hit you? In the right arm and in the ribs. I got a big old hole in my arm. How long will you be in the hospital? They say maybe 2 weeks, then a couple months in bed at home. That phone conversation was on the night before I was scheduled to leave town again. I still had packing to do and could not get away to visit the hospital. The next morning before my departure, I phoned him again. "I'm leaving town now," I said to Lil Man, "but I would like to encourage you to make good use of your recuperation time. You have a fine mind, so do some reading or writing." "I can't write. They shot my arm." "Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. Anyway, put your brain to work and try to figure some way that this won't happen to you or others in the future." "It sure won't happen to me again," he interrupted, "because I'm going to be the one packing my piece myself from now on." I groaned. "That's not what I meant. Carrying a gun won't help anything. If one person shoots and another person shoots back, there'll be 2 people hurt instead of just 1. "Don't worry, man, Hillary, man," Lil Man said with deliberate slowness. "I won't be the one that's hit." "You can't be sure of that," I pointed out. "I'm no preacher, that's for sure, but the Bible says that those who live by the sword will die by the sword, and Jesus teaches us to forgive our enemies." No comment from Lil Man for a moment. Then he grimly changed the subject, saying, "I have a private room here, and there are security guards outside to be sure none of those dudes from Cedro come and stab me. They know I can testify against them, and I can identify the car and some of the guys in it." "That's good," I said. "You take care of yourself now. Try to do some reading. See how those books are written. You might want to write your life story someday." Lil Man laughed as if he thought that would be possible. "Don't laugh. Your life story would be a lot more interesting than most, and you certainly have the capability to write it." I had been saving my money for a trip to Switzerland, and that is where I went after talking to Lil Man, but my sympathies and hopes were still with him. So a few days later I wrote to him just to try to bring a new spark to his life while he lay in the hospital. Here is a copy of the letter. "Dear Lil Man, I was lying there on my bed in Switzerland when I began thinking of you. Don't you know that you could be here instead of me? All it takes is about $400, an amount you could save in a short time. Expand your horizons, big man. Look up to what the world is offering you. But what am I suggesting is not so much that you go to Switzerland, but that you are a free human being, able to put yourself into any place in the world. Why be in a hospital bed? You are too great to die over a spot of ground in Logan Heights or anywhere in the world. Your value is more than any spot of land. As the Bible says, you are worth more than many sparrows. The world is big and beautiful, and you or any other young man you might shoot in retaliation are too young to die. You have something still to contribute to the world so that when you die as an old man, the world will be a better place because you passed through it. You are intelligent. You can do it. You can climb over the wall that holds you in. You can peek over the top of the wall and see the green grass, lush and moist, waiting for you. You can see the flowers, the mountains, the lakes, and even the beautiful girls on the other side. And because you are young and strong, you can lift yourself over the wall and help your friends climb over after you. Then you and your homeboys can hop down on the other side and spread your arms wide to the sunshine and breathe deep the sweet, fresh air, and you will say, "Thank you, God, for giving me life today. Thank you for all your gifts. I'm going to do something great and beautiful with it. Something good for all the world, for my homeboys." That, my dear big man, is what I hope for you on this day and every day of the rest of your life. Your very good friend, Hilario. When I got back from my trip, I found little man on his feet again, quite well healed. He went back to finish his last year of high school. Apparently he had lied about his age to get into the college summer program, but he got kicked out by the end of the first week. Thereafter, I saw him on the streets a few times, dressed as a stone cholo and hanging with the hard dudes who from time to time had been released from prison. Lil Man asked me about getting into college for the fall, but it was too late. The semester had already started. Next thing I knew, he was gone to Sacramento. His brother Beto was still in college, and he told me that Lil Man had been sent by his parents to stay with his grandmother in Sacramento and get into school up there. Over the 3 years since then, Lil Man has been dividing his life between Sacramento and San Diego. Many events have transpired in his life, and he often calls me, sometimes comes to visit. He does not dress as a cholo anymore, says he has outgrown it, but he has never gone back to college, yet. But life is long, Lil Man, and your potential is great. You may yet return to college or do whatever else your vigorous mind and personality desire. The world awaits you. Go for it. What do you guys think of that one? I know I always wanted a teacher to encourage me the way that Hilario had their backs. Did you have somebody like that? Were you somebody like that? Are you a teacher? If not, think about being that person for somebody, for your homeboy, for your kid, for whoever needs help. This is what that book is about. So think about it, and I'll see you guys next week.